The following is the views of MC and Jester. If you don't like our views, do not listen to our podcast.
Welcome to Me Podcast. You listen with Jester and MC.
All right, welcome to Me Podcast. You listen. This is Jester. I am with MC.
Hello.
Also, we have a special guest. We are fortunate enough to have one of the greatest independent wrestlers out here in the Southwest. He's competed all over. He's also a championship power lifter. And so we are excited to have the one, the only, the Ramrock.
Hey, thanks for having me on here, MC. Happy to be here. Excited to talk about some wrestling.
All
German
right.
Dread, welcome. Our first guest ever.
Our first guest, and hopefully maybe he'll join us for others, since we are also big, huge wrestling fans. And one of the things that we were going to talk about in this podcast is we're going to talk about the Crown Jewel, which was the WWE event that just recently, I believe, took place last Friday.
Yes, as record time, it was a week ago as we record this podcast. Yes, so it's pretty fresh, though.
About a week ago, we're going to go ahead and go over the reviews. I know that the Ramrock here reviewed it, and he watched it, and he's got some notes on it. So we'll go ahead and we'll turn it over to Ramrock himself. How did you feel about this event?
I mean, controversy aside, we can fill an entire podcast on the controversy alone with this show. Overall, if you're asking me the overall opinion on the show, it was a really rough show. Booking decisions, match quality, just overall, this show was rough and very difficult to watch.
Well, put it in perspective, especially like a question, not just for you, Ramrock, but, for Jester as well. Like, there were two kind of controversy. If you think kind of, about it, obviously, I would ask you guys, should they have done this show? What were your thoughts there? First you, Rock. Like, do you think they should have done the show?
So, some way you're standing. If I'm man, absolutely, I'm going to do the show. I read somewhere that the WWE was, if they didn't do the show in Saudi Arabia, I read somewhere that they were going to lose upwards of $34 million. So, and then there's the other side of things, where they had this guy, I believe he was some type of representative or something of Saudi Arabia who got murdered over there. And, just with all the political backgrounds and intonations that went into that, the American people, the fans were probably like, no, the WWE absolutely should not go to the show. We should not be supporting this country in any way. So it's really a 50-50. It's where you stand on that. Me personally, being in the business and knowing what I know, I wouldn't want to lose $34 million. So I say, yeah, let's go do the show. Show must go on.
Yeah, we talked about it briefly on one of our previous shows, myself and Jester talking about, the controversy, of course, with that journalist who was, murdered and everything. But yeah, you had John Cena and Daniel Bryan. The rumors were at the time when we were recording the previous shows that they may not go, and me and Jester were talking about it. Well, they ended up not going. Cena, for supposedly from the rumors were Hollywood had, with his budding Hollywood career, like they had suggested that it wouldn't be a good idea for him to go. And Daniel Bryan, I think, was just kind of following suit because of his personal beliefs not to go, as far as I know. So, yeah, it was pretty crazy, that controversy surrounding it. But they got the show off, but I tend to agree with you, Rock. I had watched the show recently myself, and I my own thoughts on it as well.
Yeah, so, I mean, what I was kind of hoping we could do is we could kind of like break down the show match by match. I mean, now that we've gotten the whole controversy thing aside, the show really honestly felt like a money grab for a lot of these old legends.
Yeah.
A lot of the main roster guys weren't even on the show, so they brought back guys like Hulk Hogan. I mean, Hulk Hogan was actually the guy who started the show, so I don't know if you want to talk about that. And Hulk Hogan being a man of mass controversy himself.
I know, so, that was the other thing, yeah. that I want to talk to you guys. Do you believe? Obviously, the question for both of you, Jester and you, Ramrock. Hulk Hogan, obviously, with the video that was leaked. It was his private comments, but they became public comments. Racial, slur. There were some people that should never be allowed back in the WWE. So I don't know get your thoughts on what do you guys think about that? I mean, do you feel this was the time? Do you feel like there was the time to bring Hulk Hogan back? Did you want to see more of a remorseful Hulk back? Or how do you feel like about Hulk Hogan returning?
I'll tell you that I think it was just an opportunity for them to bring, because you have to look at the history of WWE and WWF and all the times that what is the staple and image for WWE, and it's like the Hulk Hogans, the Undertakers. Those are what the people remember when you look at when you talk about, hey, do you guys ever watch professional wrestling? The first thing they yell out is like, oh yeah, Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior, and those guys are always have been an image of wrestling. To where the newer wrestlers, they don't stick out as much, other than John Cena, in people's heads as much as the old school wrestlers. So I think bringing them out was kind of just introducing wrestling culture, in my opinion, to a group and trying to get it out there and trying to say, hey, Hulk Hogan. And then the funniest thing is that he's got that song, I'm a Real American. I'm not sure. I didn't watch the show if he came out to that or not, which would have been funny as shit. He did. He came out to I'm a Real American. Yeah. See, that's awesome. So he should have been wearing an American flag, and then he should have been like, fuck you, Mr. T, and anybody, bring out anybody. I'll beat them all. And then it would have been funnier and shit. Did the Iron Sheik show up?
He had a huge ovation with an exorbitant amount of fireworks, I may add.
Because he's part of the wrestling culture. Again, if you were to ask anyone in the world who was born in 1970s, 80s, and 90s, what is famous wrestlers? Hulk Hogan would be in that list. And so you can say whatever you want about him, he sucks as a wrestler, he's not really that good at what he does, but his image and his just persona is what brings out professional wrestling. And so
now I want to add in here that I'm reading right now on WrestlingIncorporated.com. It sounds like members of the Saudi royal family originally wanted Hulk Hogan to come to the Greatest Royal Rumble, took place earlier in the year in Saudi Arabia. So this could have been a more political thing, having him back at the show, because Hulk Hogan wasn't reinstated at the time of the Greatest Royal Rumble.
It's almost like they'll throw millions at Vince McMahon, and he will do whatever they want him to do. That's like, I mean,
well,
I guess you can't blame him. He's running a company like Ramrock was alluding to, like, if you're throwing millions at the company in profit, they're going to do whatever they ask them to do.
Reading on Forbes magazine, that's what I was reading since you guys were talking about the deal. He's got a 10-year deal with Saudi Arabia for $450 million. And so they're looking at, they said that he has to run shows, and that the revenue, they're assuming that the revenue actually would be around $25 million per show. So that's why. So he's got a $450 million deal on the table to run shows. Now the big controversy on this Forbes magazine is, after this event, again, I don't know, you guys know more than I do about the event itself, that they're kind of saying, should they even come back? Should they even come back to this show? It sounds like they have to, because it sounds like they signed a deal. So $450 million for over 10 years, because I think that's what it said, is a big deal. So no wonder he's not turning it down. And, I mean, Absolutely. At this point, they could bring any wrestlers that are on the card and probably satisfy. And you're probably right. You guys are probably right that he's probably like, hey, we want big names, kind of like anybody would. But then, hey, go call George the Animal Steel or something up, and then you probably get Jake the Snake Roberts out there for a couple thou.
George Animal would be hard considering that he's dead right
I
now.
know. Just calm down. Okay, I'm yelling out names. Why don't you calm down, Mister
I know, I'm
Mister
just
Nerdy
busting your chops.
Nerdy Wrestler Reviewer? Okay, you know what? Call up Mr. Perfect. I know he's dead. See, but you could just put him on the card. You could put him on the card, and people will be like, "Oh my God, Mr. Perfect's going to be here," and then they could just walk out some dude with blonde hair.
Yeah, I gave you a free pass with a WF dirty word, so they don't Vince McMahon doesn't shut us down like for mentioning it.
Do you think Vince McMahon's searching for the Me Podcast You Listen on iTunes? He's like, holy shit. These guys have a huge following.
Ramrock will never get a contract.
Not to mention we're on iTunes. So Me Podcast You Listen's on iTunes now, so you can look us up.
No, that is, yeah, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention that. We are now officially on iTunes, and that allowed us the funds to bring in the big star like the Ramrock, to bring him on the show.
Yeah, the funds. We got the funds.
Get iTunes, now
That's why we couldn't actually bring him in the studio. He is via satellite at an undisclosed location, actually working on his big move to break into the Crown Jewel 2 show coming up next month.
Yep.
From Germany.
That's absolutely right. Yep, you guys got me.
He doesn't even sound.
So yeah,
German.
Yeah.
I'm with Ramrock. If we bust it down, like, you know, even if the show, if we break the show down, even if it goes into 2 parts, I'm okay with it. If you guys are, yeah, we could go match by match and cover it, and kind of just, you know, the main bullet points of what it went down. Because yeah, this was probably by no means one of the greatest WWE pay-per-view events of the year. Let's put it that way.
Did you guys really think it was going to be one of the greatest pay-per-views? I mean, honestly, I think it was more of just a political stunt. Because look how much was behind it, as far as like, oh, look at these un-American, these people are doing something that they shouldn't be doing. Okay, and then look how much publicity it got. It even got more than probably it would have if they just went through and no one said a word about it.
Yeah.
Well, you know, the whole thing is bad news is still news, right? It still puts eyes on the product, which is ultimately the goal here. In seats, eyes on the product equals revenue dollars, so that's ultimately what you're going for. Yeah, I mean, with all that aside, it's a lot about the controversy over the show. The whole show was centered around tournament, essentially. The Best in the World Crown Jewel tournament. I've watched it twice. I don't remember exactly what it was called, but the wrestlers are saying, you know, I'm going to prove that I'm the best in the world. So I kind of talk about that for a second. You have the Best in the World tournament, and then we have guys like Bobby Lashley. Mind you, Bobby Lashley's he looks great, but to put him into a tournament considered the best in the world, it felt like a fill spot. And it's probably because, you know, a lot of the guys, maybe guys who are more qualified to be in this tournament, didn't want to go to the show. I mean, what are your thoughts on that, Jester and MC?
Yeah, he replaced Cena, so replacing John Cena, they had to have a replacement. It just goes back into what you were saying, like the booking decisions, and you're building Bobby Lashley, who had recently turned from babyface to heel. You know, I just don't know if he was pretty prominent in Impact Wrestling, and they were building him pretty good, I think, there. And I believe spent the majority of his championship reigns as a heel in Impact Wrestling. So I think trying to rebuild him and repackage him as a heel and then have him eliminated in the first round is probably not the best move booking wise that they could do with a man, especially when you're trying to get people to care about him and you know, the Leo Rush pairing and stuff, his new manager or hype man. I think it's actually starting to work. But again, it's hard to talk the man up if he's getting ousted in the first round of a tournament that perhaps maybe he probably shouldn't have been in at this time.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can kind of touch on Lashley a little bit later here. The opening match of the Crown Jewel tournament was Rey Mysterio versus Randy Orton. Now, as a fan, I was very excited to see Rey Mysterio back in a WWE ring. Then I wasn't so excited to see his opponent, Randy Orton.
Yeah, I know the interesting thing with Ray, if you didn't notice, is that the cross was removed from his mask.